It was a bright afternoon at a community gathering when Karoline Leavitt, a rising political star, was making her rounds. She greeted everyone with a warm smile, shaking hands, and answering questions. But among the sea of adults, there was one person who stood out, a little girl, no older than 7, standing quietly by her mother's side. The little girl's big, curious eyes followed Karoline's every move. She wasn't interested in politics or speeches. Her attention was locked on something else, Karoline's necklace. The delicate chain had a small, simple pendant hanging from it, sparkling gently in the sunlight. It wasn't flashy, but to this little girl, it seemed magical. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage, and tugged lightly on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, can I ask her about her necklace?" the little girl whispered. Her mother smiled, giving her a gentle nod. With small, nervous steps, the girl approached Karoline. It wasn't long before Karoline noticed her and crouched down to her level, her smile growing even warmer. The crowd around them quieted slightly, sensing something special was about to happen. "Hello there," Karoline said softly, her voice kind and patient. "What's your name?" The little girl, feeling a mix of shyness and excitement, responded in a quiet voice, "My name is Lily." "That's a beautiful name," Karoline replied, her eyes sparkling with kindness. "What can I do for you, Lily?" Lily hesitated for a moment, her tiny fingers fidgeting. She glanced up at Karoline's necklace again, her curiosity winning over her nervousness. I wanted to ask about your necklace. It's really pretty. What does it mean?" The question was simple, but the weight of it hung in the air for a moment. Karoline looked down at her necklace, her hand instinctively reaching up to touch the pendant. For a brief second, a shadow passed over her face, as if the memory behind the necklace stirred something deep inside her. Lily waited, her eyes wide with anticipation, while the crowd around them seemed to lean in closer, their interest piqued by the innocent question. No one had expected the little girl's curiosity to open a door to something much deeper. Karoline took a deep breath before speaking again. The crowd had fallen completely silent now, all eyes on her and the little girl. She gently ran her fingers over the pendant, as if drawing strength from it. "This necklace," Karoline began, her voice softer now, "it means a lot to me. It was a gift from someone very special." Lily's eyes widened even more, her interest growing by the second. "Who gave it to you?" Karoline paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts. She knew that sharing the story behind the necklace wasn't something she had planned, especially not today. But there was something about the little girl's innocence, something about the way she had asked, that made her feel like it was time to share. "A long time ago," Karoline continued, her voice gentle but firm, "there was someone very close to me who always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. This person saw something in me that I couldn't see, and they gave me this necklace as a reminder to never forget my own strength." The crowd was listening intently now, hanging on to every word. Even though Karoline wasn't speaking loudly, her words carried a weight that resonated deeply with everyone present. Lily, still clutching her mother's hand, was leaning forward, her eyes glued to Karoline's face. "But something happened," Karoline added, her voice tinged with sadness. "This person, they're not here anymore. They passed away, and this necklace is the only thing I have left to remember them by." Lily's eyes filled with a mix of wonder and sadness. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her small voice barely audible. Karoline smiled softly, her eyes misting over just a little. "Thank you, Lily. It's okay. They're not with me anymore, but this necklace helps me feel like they're always close, watching over me." Lily nodded, understanding more than most adults might in that moment. The crowd remained silent, waiting for what would come next. No one had expected such a deep and emotional story to unfold from such a simple question, and now they were hooked, eager to hear more. As Karoline spoke, the memories came flooding back. The necklace, though small and unassuming, held a world of meaning. It was given to her by her grandmother, a woman who had been her greatest supporter, her guiding light. Her grandmother had always believed that Karoline would do great things, even when Karoline herself doubted it. Karoline remembered the day her grandmother had given her the necklace. It was just before she passed away, after a long battle with illness. Her grandmother's frail hands had gently clasped the chain around Karoline's neck, her eyes filled with love and pride. "This will always remind you of who you are," her grandmother had said in a voice that was soft but full of wisdom. "No matter how hard things get, no matter how much you doubt yourself, you are stronger than you know, and I will always be with you." That memory, so vivid and powerful, was something Karoline had carried with her every day. The necklace wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of love, of strength, of the belief that her grandmother had in her. Lily, still listening carefully, didn't say a word. But Karoline could see that the little girl was absorbing every word, her heart touched by the story in a way that even she couldn't fully understand yet. "I wear this necklace every day," Karoline continued, her voice steady. "It reminds me to keep going, to keep fighting for what's right, even when things get hard. And it reminds me that I'm never alone." The crowd had been quietly listening, but now they were visibly moved. Many wiped away a tear, touched by the deep personal story Karoline had shared. The air was thick with emotion as Karoline finished speaking. No one had expected the conversation to take such a personal and emotional turn, but now everyone was wrapped up in the moment. The once bustling crowd was now completely silent, with only the faint sound of the breeze rustling the trees in the background. Karoline's eyes moved across the crowd, noticing the soft expressions on their faces. Some people had tears in their eyes, while others looked thoughtful, their minds processing the depth of her words. For a moment, it felt like time had slowed down, as if the weight of Karoline's story had made everything else pause. But what really struck Karoline was the way Lily was looking at her. The little girl's wide eyes were brimming with unshed tears, her small hand still clutching her mother's as she tried to hold back her emotions. Karoline could see that the story had touched something deep inside the girl, something innocent, something pure. And then, before Karoline could say anything else, Lily did something no one expected. She stepped forward, her little feet moving slowly, and gently reached out to touch the pendant hanging from Karoline's necklace. It was a gesture so simple yet so profound, it brought a collective gasp from the crowd. "It's so pretty," Lily whispered, her voice trembling just slightly. "Your grandma must have loved you a lot." Karoline felt a lump form in her throat. She hadn't expected such a deep connection with a child, but there was something about Lily's innocence, her pure heart, that made the moment even more emotional. Karoline smiled warmly, blinking back her own tears. "She did," Karoline said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "She loved me very much, just like I'm sure your family loves you." Lily nodded, still holding the pendant gently between her small fingers. "Do you think I can be strong like you when I grow up?" Karoline felt her heart swell with emotion. She wasn't prepared for the way this little girl had turned her question into something much more, something deeper. It wasn't just about the necklace anymore. It was about courage, love, and strength. And suddenly, Karoline realized that her story, her necklace, wasn't just a reminder for her anymore. It was a message for others, too, especially for this little girl standing before her. "You already are strong, Lily," Karoline said, her voice filled with certainty. "You're stronger than you know. And as long as you believe in yourself, just like my grandmother believed in me, you can do anything." The crowd, still hanging on every word, watched in awe. They hadn't expected such a powerful moment to emerge from a simple question about a necklace, but here it was real, raw, and unforgettable. As Karoline spoke those words, the crowd seemed to exhale collectively. It was as if her message wasn't just for Lily anymore, it was for everyone. The people gathered there, from the youngest child to the oldest adult, all felt the weight of her words in their own way. The necklace, once just a piece of jewelry, had become a symbol of something greater. Karoline stood up slowly, her eyes still on Lily, who was now standing proudly beside her mother, a small but knowing smile on her face. The little girl had learned something that day, something that would stay with her for a long time. But it wasn't just Lily. Everyone in that crowd had been touched by Karoline's story. It was a reminder that we all carry something with us, whether it's a piece of jewelry, a memory, or a lesson from someone we've lost, that helps us find our strength in times of need. One by one, the people in the crowd began to clap. It wasn't loud or overwhelming, but it was steady, sincere. The applause spread slowly at first, then grew, filling the air with a sound of appreciation and understanding. Karoline looked around, humbled by their response. She hadn't expected to share something so personal that day, but now she was glad she had. The clapping didn't stop for a long time. It was as if the crowd needed to express something more than words could convey. And as Karoline stood there, she realized that this was more than just a moment. It was a connection, a shared experience that had brought them all closer together. When the applause finally began to fade, Karoline looked back down at Lily. The little girl was still watching her, her eyes shining with admiration. "Thank you for asking about my necklace, Lily," Karoline said, her voice full of warmth. "You reminded me why it's so important to keep sharing our stories." Lily smiled, her cheeks flushed with pride. "Thank you for telling me," she replied softly. And with that, Karoline knew that something special had happened that day, something that would stay with her for a long time. As the crowd slowly began to disperse, Karoline found herself surrounded by people who wanted to talk to her, to thank her for sharing her story. Some shared their own experiences, stories of loss, love, and the things that helped them find their strength. Karoline listened carefully, offering words of encouragement and understanding. But even as she spoke with others, her mind kept drifting back to Lily. There was something about the little girl's question that opened a door in Karoline's heart, a door she hadn't realized had been closed. For so long, she had kept her grandmother's memory close to her chest, using the necklace as a personal reminder. But now, she saw that sharing the story had a power of its own. It wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who needed a reminder of their own strength. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the gathering, Karoline caught a glimpse of Lily and her mother in the distance. They were leaving the event, but Lily turned back one last time, waving shyly at Karoline. Karoline waved back, her heart full. In that moment, she realized that the necklace had taken on a new meaning. It wasn't just a symbol of her grandmother's love. It was a symbol of the strength we all carry within us, waiting to be discovered. That night, as Karoline sat alone in her quiet home, she took off the necklace and held it in her hands. The pendant gleamed softly in the dim light, its familiar weight comforting her. But now, it didn't feel like just a reminder of the past. It felt like a bridge to the future. Karoline smiled to herself, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She thought about Lily, about the way the little girl had looked at her with such hope and curiosity, and she realized that sharing her story had given her a new purpose. She wasn't just a politician, a public figure. She was someone who had a story to tell, someone who could use her experiences to inspire others, just like her grandmother had inspired her. As Karoline clasped the necklace back around her neck, she made a silent promise to herself. She would keep sharing her story, not just for herself, but for everyone who needed to hear it. Because, in the end, it wasn't just about the necklace. It was about the strength, the love, and the hope that it represented. And that was something worth sharing. As Karoline sat in the quiet of her home, her thoughts drifted back to that powerful moment with Lily. She couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, not just in her, but in the way she saw the world. For so long, her grandmother's necklace had been a private reminder, a treasure she carried close to her heart, rarely speaking about to others. But now, the simple act of sharing its story with a little girl had opened her eyes to something much bigger. It was as if the necklace had taken on a new life, a new meaning. It wasn't just a relic of the past anymore. It was a connection to others, a way to bring hope, strength, and comfort to those who needed it. Karoline realized that her grandmother's wisdom, her love, and her strength had been passed down to her through this necklace, and now it was her turn to pass that on. She thought about the people she had spoken to after the event, men and women who had shared their own stories of loss, struggle, and resilience. Some had lost loved ones. Others had faced hardships that seemed insurmountable, yet they had found a way to keep going. Each story was different, but the underlying message was the same. We all carry something with us that helps us navigate life's challenges, whether it's a memory, a lesson, or even a simple piece of jewelry. As Karoline reflected on the day's events, she knew that her life had changed in a subtle but profound way. She wasn't just going to be a politician who fought for causes she believed in. She was going to be someone who shared her story, who used her platform to inspire others, just like her grandmother had inspired her. And it wasn't about grand speeches or flashy campaigns. It was about connecting with people on a deeper, more personal level. The next day, Karoline woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She was scheduled to speak at another event, and this time, she knew exactly what she wanted to say. Instead of sticking to the script her team had prepared, she was going to speak from the heart. She was going to tell her story, just like she had with Lily, and she was going to remind people that they all had the strength to overcome whatever challenges life threw their way. As she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the pendant around her neck, Karoline smiled to herself. The necklace sparkled in the morning light, and for the first time, she didn't see it as just a reminder of her past. It was a symbol of hope, of love, and of resilience, a message that needed to be shared with the world. That day, as she stood on stage in front of yet another crowd, Karoline felt a sense of calm wash over her. She looked out at the faces before her, and for a moment, she thought about Lily. The little girl had reminded her of something important, that even in the darkest of times, we can find light if we're willing to look for it. And with that thought in mind, Karoline began to speak. "I want to share a story with you," she said, her voice steady and strong. "It's a story about love, about strength, and about finding hope in the most unexpected places." The crowd leaned in, their attention fully captured. And as Karoline shared the story of her grandmother's necklace once again, she could see the same expression she had seen on Lily's face, the same awe, the same curiosity, the same sense of connection. This was her new purpose. This was what she was meant to do. As time passed, Karoline continued to share her story with others. She traveled across the country, speaking to people from all walks of life, each time carrying her grandmother's necklace with her as a reminder of the lessons she had learned. Lily, too, carried a memory of that day with her. As she grew older, she often thought back to the moment when she had asked Karoline about her necklace. It had been a simple question, but the answer had changed her life. It had taught her that strength wasn't just something you were born with. It was something you could grow, something you could find within yourself when you needed it most. Years later, when Lily was an adult, she found herself at a crossroads in her own life. She was facing a difficult decision, one that required courage and resilience. And in that moment, she thought of Karoline, of the story she had told, and of the necklace that had symbolized so much. With a deep breath, Lily reached for the necklace she now wore around her own neck, a simple pendant her mother had given her, a reminder of the love and support she had in her life. And as she clasped it tightly in her hand, she knew that she had the strength to face whatever lay ahead. Karoline's story had become a part of her own, a legacy passed down through generations, a legacy of love, of strength, and of hope. And just like Karoline, Lily knew that she would carry that legacy with her, always,